I'm Nicole Clifton. I am a life coach with my master's in psychology. I'm a leadership development specialist. I'm also a writer and a public speaker. So one of the cool jobs I've gotten to have over the last decade was to be a resident director at a university. And in that job, sometimes I had to be on call to deal with emergencies that came up with our residential students. A handful of years ago, I had a student who was having a mental health crisis, and she was actually really suicidal. So as we worked with a crisis line, our campus counseling staff, we actually came to the realization, and she was diagnosed as being bipolar. And so in the days and weeks after that diagnosis, she also received a recommendation that she should take medicine to help kind of moderate some of her extreme mood swings from being manic to suicidal. And she confided in me on why she was struggling with the concept of taking medicine. And she said, I feel like if I admit to the fact that I maybe need medicine, it means that there's something wrong with me, that I'm deeply defective and broken, and that makes me less lovable and less worthy. And it stirred up all of this shame in her. On top of that, she grew up in a really religious, conservative Christian family, and her Christian family said to her that mental health struggles aren't real and that you just need to trust God and pray and read the Bible. And so this is what I said to her. I said, if you were diabetic and your body wasn't functioning the way that it needed to, wasn't producing the insulin you needed to live, would you think that you were weak or broken or not working hard enough to get well or just get over it? Would you just pray about it and then not do anything else to help your body? No, you would use the gifts and tools of modern medicine to give your body what it needed. We have to remember sometimes that in mental health, our brain is still a part of our actual body, and our actual bodies exist in a world where sometimes our bodies don't do what we want them to do. They don't function the way that they were made to function. And so we have to do extra stuff, like take medicine, to help our bodies get what they need. Now, sometimes we take medicine just for a season, right? It's just for a temporary amount of time. But sometimes certain things become a part of our chronic long-term health, and we have to create a new normal that maybe includes medicine, but none of it has anything to do with not working hard enough or being broken or defective, or certainly not about not trusting God enough. So this made me think about how there's still a lot of stigma in the world that comes around two of the most important resources when it comes to tackling mental health. That is taking medicine for a mental health condition and going to therapy. So since we already started talking about medicine, I'll just add a few more things to that. So you're only going to be taking medicine for a mental health diagnosis if you're actually seeing a licensed therapist and or working with a doctor or a psychiatrist and they've diagnosed you. Now, taking medicine is not a character flaw. Remember, sometimes our brain doesn't create the hormones or the chemicals that it needs, and so you taking medicine is about you taking responsibility for your holistic health and showing up for your body and what it needs. Okay, so let's switch tracks and talk about counseling or going to see a life coach. There's nothing wrong with going to counseling or seeing a life coach. Nothing. Sometimes there is stuff going on in our present that is really challenging that we need to deal with, and sometimes we have stuff from our past that continues to impact our present that we also need to deal with. And it doesn't mean that you're weak or not working hard enough to get over it. It just means you're a human being. And every human being needs help sometimes. And sometimes the stuff we go through is challenging enough that we need a more objective perspective than a family member or a friend can offer. And this objective perspective is somebody who is qualified and trained and educated to help you walk through hard things and walk towards healing. So going to therapy is not just for crazy people, which I hate that term anyways, because it's hurtful and derogatory towards people who actually have a mental health diagnosis. But I think that anyone and everyone could benefit from going to see a therapist and or going to see a life coach at some point in their life or another. So whether it's going to see a therapist for an actual mental health diagnosis or to process some deep trauma, or maybe you're going to see a life coach to work on relationship issues or stress and transition or working towards a goal. Those are all really incredible choices that somebody can make towards becoming a healthier, wiser version of themselves. So what does that mean for the average person? Well, if you have a friend who is struggling and you're wondering what to do for them, maybe help them consider therapy or taking medicine, and then stand by their side as they figure out how to navigate all the mess and confusion to get access to the resources that they need. Or if you're that person who is struggling and is overwhelmed and life feels really unmanageable, I would encourage you to be brave and consider these resources. You're not too broken, you're not alone, and there are people who will not love you any less for needing things like counseling or therapy.